Hello, my friends over at Face to Face Games. This is Travis Semulin Sowers, and we are jumping into a traditional best of three Innistrad Midnight Hunt draft on MTG Arena. Please do check out Face to Face Games for all of your gaming needs. You can buy Magic cards, you can buy board games, you can buy other fun stuff. And you can remember to turn the music on for your draft. Usually on my stream, we're listening to Streamtastical tunes. But for the YouTube stuff, at least here, I like to keep the music going. So how has Midnight Hunt been for me? It's been an interesting ride because we've gone from the format's wide open, you can do whatever you want, to it's too fast and it's garbage, to you should be forcing blue-black every time, to now I'm kind of feeling like you can kind of draft whatever you want, read what's open. Blue is the best color by a lot, and it's certainly forcible. I don't think it's quite as bad as some formats in the past. I was kind of thinking recently on stream of Oath of the Gatewatch, which is a format that's pretty far distant in the past now. I can remember I was still grinding the GP circuit and living in an apartment. Back at that time, it was a while ago, but that's neither here nor there. In that format on Magic Online, you could force black-white and get 2/1s, just like that. And 2/1s were good enough to go infinite on Magic Online. They're not, notably, on Arena. You'll need to spike a 3-0 now and then. I don't think the blue-black is quite as bad as the black-white was in Oath of the Gatewatch, but it is kind of the boogeyman of the format. I'll give it that. Anyway, we'll take a pause here and fire off when the draft do begin. All right, here we are going. And what have we got to start off with? We've got Sun Gold Sentinel, which I like a lot. This essentially has protection-ish once you get Coven going. We've got Delver, which I told people in the set review was mostly unplayable in Limited. And that's not entirely true. I have made decks where Delver was good. I've been pretty happy with Purifying Dragon. There's some decks that have a really hard time beating it. There's other decks that just have a removal spell at the right time and it doesn't do anything. I think I'm going to go with the Sun Gold Sentinel here. I think it almost feels like an uncommon unless you get it going and your opponent's low on life, and then it feels like a rare. There's a lot of 3/1s for 2 in this format, and early game it just kind of trades for them. But having a 2-drop in your deck that can do something late game makes me happy. I don't feel compelled to force white for this or anything like that. I just think it's the best card in the pack. Now we get to a bit of a question about the Mentor, the Clear Shot, the Intruder, and the Defenestrate, which I think are all very good cards. I think I'm on the line of Clear Shot because it's a little bit easier to get a 2-for-1 with this card. It's not insane to imagine combat scenarios where +1/+1 would win you a fight, and you get to kill something else. That's pretty easy to do with Clear Shot. All it really takes is somebody double blocking, and you can usually get the blowout with it, especially if they're tapped out. So I think I like the Clear Shot better. But our goal initially, and I say this all the time, I don't think drafting actually starts until around the 5th pick. I think that's when you're actually starting to make real decisions. This is kind of like an appetizer. We're just sort of looking for the best card in each pack. Been a lot of conversation about Diagraph Horde and Lunarch Veteran. I think we're going to take the Beloved Beggar here. I love being able to either discard this and then get some value out of that, or just throw it under the bus and then turn it into a 4/4 later. It's also pretty good if you can mill yourself. And White-Green, which we're kind of leaning towards but aren't necessarily there, can do that. I think both of these cards are playable. I think the Horde's actually quite good, and this should probably not go before the wheel. I don't think it's so good that you should be, I don't know, 2nd or 3rd picking it consistently, but out of a weak pack, I can imagine it. This is certainly playable, but I think a lot of people are over-prioritizing it. This is a if it wheels, you might play it, not grab it early and be excited about it. At least that's my current evaluation on these cards. Defend the Celestus is an interesting one. Because now we're getting to the point where we'd like to have our color pair figured out, but we still kind of don't quite yet. Much like Clear Shot, you can get a 2-for-1 off of Defend the Celestus, but it's a lot harder to set up. You kind of need more than one creature that's attacking at the right time when your opponent's tapped out. I think it still has the highest upside here. Pardon me, I've got a cough drop and it's kind of doing the opposite of what it's supposed to do. And this is the pack where we're supposed to kind of have figured out what we're up to. Let's just take that out. If your cough drop is making you cough, you got to let go of that. I've seen people do crazy things like put Cather's Call on that 1/1 that gains life and just start a life gain factory. But I think I might be ready to just go ahead and grab a Bird Admirer and hop into green-white. This one kind of feels like it's drafting itself. This is our first moment to like deviate from this plan. Which we could do with the Gale Drifter. But what I'm feeling so far is that green seems relatively open. Like, this is not a terrible uncommon. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. So with a clear shot, the Liberator, and these cards, I feel like we're pretty well set in green. And then we can decide if we want to get into white. And I don't know. I don't think Search Party Captain is the best card ever. But I think it's pretty good for pick 7. So I think this deck may just kind of be drafting itself. It's worth noting the Beggar's not going to be as good in this as it would be in, like, blue-white. It's a decent trick, but I think I might actually play tapping at the window here. If we get a few more of these cards, it could do something. And it would really surprise me if we go off into blue, but I'm still going to take this. I don't think the 2-mana combat tricks are that valuable, and I suspect I'm going to end up with one whether I want it or not, so I don't feel compelled to take that one. This is a premium sideboard card, and I want one, but I'm still going to take the Harvesttide Sentry. Having 2 green 2-drops means that I could, in theory, switch colors entirely and still be comfortable with my number of 2-drops, right? Like, we could ditch the white if we needed to. I like having a Jack-o'-lantern early. If you're only splashing 1 card, it's almost as good as an Evolving Wilds. And Ritual Guardian's fine, too. Like, we can play this. Oh, okay, we got the Exorcism anyway. Nice. And here's where we need to kind of do a risk-reward evaluation, right? Like, the green-white deck that we're building would probably be happy to have another Beloved Beggar. But if blue opens up in this direction and we can be blue-green instead, that Sludge Monster would be really freaking nice. So I don't think it's actually hurting us that bad to take the Sludge Monster. We got 8 playables out of the first pack. And realistically more. Like, I can throw a Ritual Guardian and a tapping at the window in here. So if our color pair continues to be open, green-white that is, then we're gonna get to playables. If blue happens to open up, we've got a pretty big reward for it here in that we get the Sludge Monster. So I think we take this and see where we go. Right now it's kind of blue and white competing for this spot. I like Rise of the Ants quite a bit. We're going to take the Garden Savior here and kind of move right back out of this. And again, unless blue is incredibly open and we end up being blue-white after all, that would kind of surprise me, but it could happen. But I think this card is quite good too, especially if you've got enough 2-drops, and if we're playing the white, we do. We'd probably want at least one more, because it's not like you want to bring back the Beggar. Here we've got a Candle Trap, an Angler, a Sun Gold Barrage, a lot of good white cards. And a lot of people will tell you these aren't, that Candle Trap is bad. I think they're just crazy. I'm very happy with Candle Trap. And a lot of that perspective, if you watch a lot of people draft, like I did back in the day, everybody was drafting the same format. These days you've got best of 1 and best of 3, and the evaluations are wildly different. But I'm going to take the Candle Trap, because now I'm feeling very comfortable with white-green, and also feeling like we could conceivably move into blue. but it doesn't look particularly open. So I think we're just going to settle here and say that was a nice dream that we dreamed, but it's past, and this is probably what we're doing. Join the Dance is nice. It's another flashback card that we could mill with tapping at the window, which I like, but I think we just take the Silversmith here and get our creature base set up. That lets you manipulate Coven pretty well. This pack really doesn't have anything for us. I don't think I would splash Rim. I don't think I would splash a Cathartic Pyre either, but I might, and I could do it with the Jack-o'-lantern. Let's consider that, I guess. There just really wasn't much else there. A second Candle Trap I would play. A Burn the Accursed I would probably... It would be a better splash than the Cathartic Pyre, I think, but why not just grab this? This is looking pretty good to me. Like, at this point, I probably don't need to splash the Pyre unless we're short playables. Like, you can find removal that's splashable, but you need to ask yourself, do I need to incur the risk to get this reward? Because the risk is you don't have the red mana to cast the Cathartic Pyre. And if your deck has no removal, then yeah, you probably need to incur that risk. But if you got 2 Candle Traps and a Clear Shot, you probably don't. This pack has a lot of cards that I would like, from the Candlegrove Witch to the Gavany Trapper. I think the first one for me would be the Farmer, to make sure we hit those land drops. Like a 3-mana 2/3 that draws a card is pretty good. It could also potentially mill some 2-drops for this. It could mill the Join the Dance, which we were kind of hoping to wheel. It's really good that we did. Interestingly, though, Angel Fire Ignition says win the game, and I didn't notice that when it went around the first time, but I'm sure noticing it now. Yep, I'm taking that. We may not be able to splash it, because we would need like an Evolving Wilds to do it, not like just a Jack-o'-lantern, but this card is very powerful. We're going to try that. If I bump into a Disturbed deck, we will have multiple Throbbing Exorcisms. We spun the other Join the Dance anyway, so it doesn't hurt us that bad. I'm happy to main deck the first Sun Gold Barrage. This deck is looking pretty good to me. I suppose you could conceivably do this with the Jack-o'-lantern, but I'd really want an Evolving Wilds to pull this off. That's not a huge ask. There's also a green spell that I've passed several copies of that can fix you for mana. I was kind of so zoned in on we're some form of Bant colors that I didn't even notice this when we initially saw it. But the fact that nobody took it's kind of crazy. Now, the moment for us to play blue is kind of past, but this is a really good source of card advantage in blue. A lot of people are just dismissing this rare and like, huh, I don't know why. It says draw 2 cards a turn. It's pretty good. I don't mind a little bit more beef. 6/5 that turns into an 8/7 is fine. We can play this. I'm not quite going wide enough that I want a Ritual of Hope, but this card's fine. Evolving Wild's still pretty high on my priority list. This is pretty high on my priority list too. This is a very powerful card. Sadly, I'd like to take the Rockfall Veil, as that would help with the splash here. But whatever. Just giving random units first strike is pretty good. And the more we can split around the power, the better. Like, we've got some 1 powers, we've got some 0 powers, some 3s, some 2s, some 1s. So I think Coven can be enabled. All right, we've got another Search Party Captain if I think I've got enough 2s. And I do. Like, we'll probably play 1 more. But the Captain's all right. There's my Evolving Wilds. Okay, so the splash is done if we want it. Yeah, I think I'd like it. Because I feel like I could probably play the Jack-o'-lantern, the Wilds, and 1 mountain and sort of get away with it. There's not a huge chance we're going to be able to mill the Angel Fire Ignition, though. Like, the only self-mill I have is the Farmer, unless I want to play the tapping at the window. Which currently with 12 creatures, I really don't. Like, it's a catastrophe to fire off a tapping at the window and whiff. That's no bueno. You don't want to do that. So there's Silversmith coming back. There's Tolvolar, which is quite good, but I don't think for us. Do we just want a Shadow Beast sighting over the second Silversmith? Because I kind of do want a combat trick now. I think the Silversmith is probably better for what we're doing, but it's questionable there. I did say I wanted a combat trick, and there's one here. Because I feel like this deck is going to try to get into combat. I didn't really want a 3-mana combat trick, but that's kind of where we're at. If this is the deck, I can certainly work with it. We should have room for a morning patrol, eh? I'm not quite sure what I would cut. Some non-creature. I guess I could argue that I don't need Howl of the Hunt because Clear Shot and Defend the Cletus can kind of function like that. It's a solid 2-drop as well. I guess we need to question how much I want this splash and how much I think I need it. Like, the Beggar may be the thing to go, which feels kind of weird. This is an interesting card to have access to. Again, don't know that we're jamming it here. Wow, okay, so we've got another Morning Patrol, which I like a good bit, Candlelit Cavalry, and a Crossroads Guide, which has been a reasonable sideboard card. We may be at the point where, like, I don't feel like I need to splash to get there with this deck. And there's yet another combat trick if we want it, another playable 2-drop. Like, we just kind of got everything going here. So I think we really need to quit. Like, we're going to have to do some actual deck construction here, which I'm not entirely used to. Like, it's just so many playables, we really get to pick which ones are going to be best for our deck. So how is this deck looking to win games? That's the question to ask yourself. So let's make sure our deck has a plan. What's the plan? So we're going to curve out with some 2-drops into a 3-drop, and we're going to try an aggressive start. Are we, though? Are we trying an aggressive start with our 0-4 into 2-3? I don't know that that's what we're doing. We're looking to establish board control and then make attacks and use instants to our advantage. Things like Defend the Celestis, things like Clear Shot, things like Sun Gold Barrage. What's not really working with this deck is the Candle Trap, interestingly enough. So question number 1, do we need Angel Fire Ignition to win a game? Because if we don't, our mana gets better, and I don't have to play this Jack-o'-lantern, and all of a sudden we've got a pretty reasonable deck that's very creature-heavy. Because the other option would be to cut the worst 2 creatures, which might be the Timberland Guide and one of the Morning Patrols. Yeah, I think we do that because Join the Dance is just more creatures. There is the other question of, like, is Ritual of Hope just a different version of Angel Fire Ignition that's already in colors we're already playing? And I think it might be. No, I still like Defend the Celestis here. Let's give this a go and see if we're actually onto something. I think I'm pretty good with the 1 mountain, right? Because we could kind of go 8-7-1. This looks at least reasonable adjacent to me. Yeah, we could try this at least for game 1 and then see where we go. I'm excited to try this one out. It's been a while since I've green-whited. Let's take it out for a spin. See how long the matchmaking takes. Took us a little while to get the draft fired. But I am recording this at like 11 on a Thursday. So there's a few less people playing Magic. would like to play first. It's a reasonable start. I'll join the dance. Ooh. Is it a lard or zombie? Difficult to say. Alright, Sentinel's nice. Would have been nicer last turn, but, you know, that's okay. I think we'll submit 0. I'd forgotten entirely about its Graveyard's ability. Like, that's not a bad ability against a blue-white deck. Like, they should actively be scared of this. Hujoko Beholder. Yeah, they are actively scared of this. Which is good for us. So I can make these a pair of 2/2s. Or next turn, I can make one of them a 2/2 and this a 4/4 and then swing for 8. And that seems pretty good to me. Unless they kill this too, in which case we're back on the make these 2/2s and start swinging plan. Hiya! As soon as they tap out, we will Angel Fire. It should still be fairly scary, because remember, this ability is still going to fire off. I suppose our concern is that they have enough up for a counterspell. And that's a little scary. I could also just let the ability fire and attack with the 2/3 and be pretty happy. Yeah, I think I'd like to play around the counterspell. Because I can just flashback join the dance this turn and not be particularly bothered. They're just on nothing? I like that. They're going to have to sludge monster this dual craft trainer after they've already tapped it. It's so much work. All right, so if we swing and these get through, that's 3 + 3 is 6. I can't Angel Fire and defend the Celestis in the same turn, which is a bit unfortunate. If they block incorrectly, I can kill the Sludge Monster with this. I'm feeling like we probably swing team here, and there's a 1-mana bounce spell, but I don't think I need to play around that. Yeah, let's take a peek here, because they're pretty close to dead, and these blocks could go in our favor. Like, if they block the 1/1s, we can put them to 1. These are kind of the blocks I expected, and that'll let us get the Sludge Monster off the table. Because I'm just going to put all 3 on this. And let's not deal with that. Because we're pretty sure we're going to get Angel Fire Ignition to get Trample next turn. Because that'll be like a, what? 7 power double striker. They need their bounce spell right now or that's game. Bye-bye. Human Knight, Human Soldier, Horror. This is a deck that should be full of Disturb cards and should be full of Spirits, but we haven't seen any, which makes me wonder about bringing this in, but this should be good. I think we can be confident that they will have at least one Disturb card or Spirit in their deck. All of our removal needs to be saved for that Sludge Monster, and I kind of want to clean the deck up and take out the Splash, which may seem a bit like heresy after it literally just won the game for us. But I think we can get in better cards here on the draw and that we're less likely to steal a game like that. And it's not like we're unhappy to have the Evolving Wilds, right? It's still doing some work. Because at least one of these is going to be good. And I was kind of thinking we could play the other Morning Patrol, or the Ritual of Hope looked well there, but it was mostly because we drew in Flashback, Join the Dance. We could get tapping at the window. We could potentially bring in Plummet, because Blue-White usually has flyers. The problem is a lot of the flyers are flashbackable flyers, which I don't love. We also had a Moonsilver Key we could have used for the splash. I think I like Howl of the Hunt, especially if they're going to use something like Locked in the Cemetery. That's an interesting way to kind of untap something and get a blocker. So let's make that little adjustment. And if they truly are blue-white with no spirits or disturbed creatures or enchantments, we already know they have an enchantment, then we can take that out. My suspicion is that we're going to want to bring the other one in. But we can play the game first and then decide that. Yeah, that's fine. Let's do that. Flood me, flood me. Say that you'll flood me. Like it a little better on the draw. It again would be awful nice to hit the third land and feel confident that we're going to get there, but is what it is. There you go. Good Jorb. We can just kill that. Just literally untap and exile it. If we feel like we need to. We may not feel like we need to. We could use the Exorcism to free it. Yeah, like I said, I think we're going to want to bring the second one in. That thing's got to go. Like, I ain't dealing with that. And the beggar, we've got like 500 answers for. We're not worried about him either. I do suspect we will be executing the 1/5. This would be a really nice time for them not to have a counter spell, and they appear not to. So let's get to partying. Is this thing an instant too? This is such a good sideboard card. I mean, you do you, buddy. Gains hexproof. So it's not actual protection, which means I can't knock the enchantment off, which is a bit unfortunate. Man, they've really got a shields up scenario here, which is interesting to me. So many enchantments. This is unblockable for them. So let's fire this off in the Eccentric Farmer. Not quite what we wanted to mill there, but, you know, you take it. Because we can put Silversmith counters on this and at least start chonking for 4. And they really about locking some stuff in the cemetery. I like it. We start sending them one at a time? No, this is our plan. I think we finally found what we use our enchantment removal on. And it's getting this dude unlocked. Because 6 damage a turn will close this out. Like, we're close to being able to just turn everything sideways and get that last big hit in. Well, now have I changed my mind and I just want this dude? No, I can close it with 4 a turn for a little bit. I can close it with 4 a turn. But like I said, I had a suspicion we'd want to bring the other one in if we go to a game 3. We will certainly do that. Now, they can't kill either of these, so we can start attacking with them too. We probably should have been attacking with them too a while back. I just got a little fascinated with what they were doing. Like, it doesn't technically do anything now, but next turn it'll start getting us in another 2 damage. At a certain point, we can send with the team, and I think that point is coming up. Because next turn, we should be able to kill them, right? Yeah, if they don't play something here, I think we can. Because we'd have 9, a lot more than they've got. Yeah, they definitely need something here. It would appear they don't have something. Okay. The writing is on the wall. Like I said, against blue-white, bring in your Thraben Exorcisms. I don't think enough people appreciate the power of this card. Now, we happen to be in a unique situation where our opponent just had infinity enchantments, and not a lot of people are going to play that many of all of those enchantments. But a good blue-white deck is going to have an enchantment or 2, because both of the key removal spells are enchantment-based, as well as the uncommon removal spell, which we saw there. There's a ton of spirits in that deck. And there's a ton of disturb cards, generally speaking, in that deck. So if we're going to take away anything from that one game, I think it would be to value Thraben Exorcism as a sideboard card is good. All right, let's do the next round. There's no cost to splashing. I think you still keep it. It is what it is. Sometimes you're the statue. Sometimes you're the pigeon. We can draw white cards. We can draw green mana. And we've got kind of a safety valve. If we're playing against an aggressive deck, we can candle trap something if we need to. I don't want our first play to be a 3-mana 3/4, but if it needs to be, it needs to be. I reckon it needs to be. Let's put something on this board. They really flipped my switch. Three-color deck. Lol. Who plays three-color decks? You see, it's funny because of reasons. So we probably do eventually want to candle trap that. And it will lead to us being able to double spell. I think I like spending as much mana as possible right now. And with two candle traps, I feel pretty comfortable firing that one off, even though I already have this answered. We're going to be very careful about what we use the second one on. But I don't want to lead to some scenario where they flip it, bounce a guy into turn, and then start chonking in for 6 damage. The Tavern Ruffian is hard to work with, but a good deck, like, if we respect our opponent, this card's going to be good in their deck. If we don't, we're probably going to win anyway. They really don't want their birds admired. That's something like 4 damage we've saved from doing that now, so... Alright. Let's party. I wonder if I candle trap the other one now. Could ignite for 4 and then spend the 3 to exile it. I think I do. Because we could just ignite a token. Then they can't block the 5-power one. I think this is working out in our favor. I guess we'll find out. Those may not have been the best candle traps I've ever seen. My opponent is playing far more Tavern Ruffians than I've ever seen. I don't think this is a too difficult block. You block the 3/3 with the 2/5 and you move along. Okay, or you don't. That works too. I wonder what the green's for. I can't give them too much grief. I'm splashing too. Are they splashing the Delver? No, they're just a 3-color deck. All right, we are going to need a little bit more action than this. Not a whole lot, but a little. Because they currently kind of have to trade this with the watch. But after that, we're beginning to run out of action. So are they. We're both top decking. But like, if we whiff, they end up with a 6-5. And we've kind of found our answer here. It looks like this opponent is playing a larger than 40 card deck. So they've kind of just ended up with every Tavern Ruffian they have. It's worth noting, though, that they're kind of winning. So... yeah, it's going to be tough. Well, I say it's going to be tough. It's not actually that tough. We can block them. We can build it stronger. A little nervous about a combat trick, but I don't think we're supposed to just take 12. Do I just put these two in front of that and call it? Like, just accept that we've kind of been 2 for 3. I don't like that. I mean, I guess we could take the 6 and swing back for 6. Like, that's a bigger chunk of their life total than ours. I think I'm game for that. We're going to try that. I don't know what their last card is. If it's a land, we're in the driver's seat here. Because I can close out the game faster than they can. Now, they flip this, the math changes a little bit, right? Because they could chonk me for 9 twice. But if they miss the flip, they're going to need 3 turns to kill me, and I only need 2 turns to kill them. Which means, unless they hit something good, they really can't attack here. Doesn't super matter, but there is some stuff to get back spells in that color combo. So here I think we're really close to hitting Coven and just kind of pretty much winning. So this is unblockable. We swing team. They have to throw away their Delver, but I don't actually think that matters. I'm just going to chonk them. I mentioned that the Delver cannot be good in limited. What I mean by that is you can't just put it into an average limited deck and have it perform well. The Delver needs a lot of support. Obviously, a very high spell count is basically that support. Red. Blue. You're dead. Boom. Have no fear, a well-tuned 40-card deck will win against a 60-card pile. Not that these are bad cards. I mean, for all I know, they drafted a pretty good deck. For all I know, they're doing a draft challenge. Maybe it's their first draft. I don't know. There's all sorts of reasons people could play more than 40 cards. But if your goal is to win, it's always wrong to do that. Again, I kind of feel like cutting the splash here. It wasn't even that good against them. It was fine. But let's lean on our strength, which is we are a more consistent deck. And I think I can get them with combat tricks. Yeah, I think I like what this is offering. Yeah. This looks good to me. That hand's a little ugly, but I'm still going to keep it. If we can hit one forest, we're basically in the money. And if we can't, we could draw white 2-drops. We could draw planes that would get us closer to the trainer, which is one of our win conditions. I mean, ideally we'd drawn a forest and then milled this dude, but kind of is what it is, eh? It is mighty nice to have hit there. I am well pleased. You attack for 4? I'll attack for 4. Man, it's really bold to go for the combat trick here. I think I like going for the silversmith and still sending the farmer again. Because this still leaves me Coven. It leaves me a nice first tracker on the way back. And this would still trade for that werewolf, which I'm fine with. Again, I'm assuming they have something, and it's difficult to say what it might be. They have good game. Okay, good game. Yeah, that's the like a solid reason not to go for the combat trick. They got some big stuff. That's a little scurry. They should be reading me for combat trick here. And they are. I don't know that they expected that one. But that's what we got. I think I'm happy with the 3-1 here. It can start attacking next turn. And I could conceivably block the Infiltrator with it. I wonder why they good gamed me. They think, like, I can't win after they kill this dude, I guess. I still can't tell who they thought was winning at that point, me or them. And here I'm like, should I be playing around startle? Should I be playing around +2/+2? I'm not entirely sure. I'm kind of fine with those blocks happening, so I don't really feel compelled to do anything. Fine with that too, I reckon. So we can flash in the commando and block the 4/3, and I think be relatively happy. Okay, there's a flyer we weren't expecting. That's all right. I mean, I can mostly just take this, right? Because it's going to be hard for us not to have lethal on the way back. I suppose the argument is there's no reason not to throw the beggar under the bus here. Because it probably ain't doing much else in this game. So, sure, hop under the bus. But I went from thinking we're going to use the Cathar Commando to block to thinking we're going to use it to attack and try to cheese a win with Defend the Celestus. Yeah, that looks like unless they have particularly startled, they're just dead. Well, you say that, and it just isn't true. Right? Because, like, I imagine they would let through the 1/1s, and that's only 5, and they're at 5. Okay. I think we figured it out. They also can't block the Harvest Sentry. So I think short of startle, we win the game here. I'm just going to put them all here because it doesn't matter. There is a 1-mana bounce spell, too. I guess Startle doesn't actually beat me, does it? Because they're taking, yeah, they're taking too much. So Startle wouldn't have done it. It would have to be the 1-mana bounce spell or the 2-mana bounce spell. There's a lot of things they could have had, and it's really difficult to figure out what your opponent could have when they're playing a 60-card deck. Because there were, again, perhaps some questionable deck-making decisions, perhaps somebody doing a challenge run. You never know what your opponent's up to. I have a tendency to try to respect what they're doing rather than dismiss it. Because, again, if they're just terrible, you're probably going to win anyway. But if they actually know what they're doing and chose to play a 60-card deck for memes or something like that, you should probably still respect them. I've done that before. I've companioned Yorion in Draft. It was interesting. I think one of them was even a 3-0. It can happen. All right, one more for all of the mobbers. All right, let's go off for our last round. It's been a good draft so far. I don't think I've gotten a 3-0 for Fossa yet, so I'm kind of anticipating just getting rolled over by blue-black zombies here, but you never know. That is a start you could have. What is that thing? I don't even know what that is. I wonder if you just ignite it and go. I don't think so. Like that color combination is the morbid color combo. That would lead me to believe that we're better off trading on our turn. And leaving these counters on a vigilance creature that dies into something else also seems pretty huge to me. I mean, this seems pretty good too. Yeah, I can have that enabled next turn with very little effort. And if I need to just chew past a 3/5, I can do that as well. This gets that going, right? So we can trade this pretty happily. Take that damage. Just don't feel the need to ignite yet. Because igniting this seems pretty spicy to me. Doesn't it to you? Like, that'll get through the Burb Admirer. I suppose it won't if they flip it. Well, I'm going to miss that guy. He was nice. Go, go. That thing can be quite scary. A little less so now. I think it's time. Let's force this. You need to kill this right now or you're dead. Nice. That was. I'm glad we had that to slam the door shut, because if we didn't, they were going to get ahead of us there in just a minute. Just looks like just high card quality green-black things, but we didn't really see much of their deck, and it's worth noting they were stuck on 4 while we hit 7. The Flyers aren't going to be quite as good against them. I kind of want to cut the Ignition again, which I realize I've won the game with it every time and then been like, let's cut it. That's one of the reasons why is I feel like it's worse on the draw. And because there's been sideboard cards I've wanted to bring in. It's kind of like, do we want the Howl of the Hunt, which is cute with a couple of our werewolves, but we're not playing that many of them. I could sort of see tapping at the window doing well. I don't need the jack-o'-lantern. Yeah, we're probably running enough creatures and flashback stuff that I could jam tapping at the window. And I think I can work with the combat trick. I could also just jam the morning patrol and make it better. That's fair. Like they've got one bird admirer. That doesn't mean flyers are worthless. Kind of forgot we had this. Really haven't seen it over the course of the draft, but happy to see it here. I mean, kinda, right? Like, also kind of not. Like, this is a hand that would like, you know, some 2-drops to trade off so that it'll do something later. Speaking of which, there's a 2-drop to trade off. And one that they'll presumably value trading off pretty highly. Pair 2/2's not so bad, is it? That thing is bloody terrifying. Yep, that is terrifying. I don't know what to do about the mask, other than try to kill them before they can do anything with it, which is about where we're at. Like, if they want to equip it, hit for 2, basically just draw 2 cards, that's fine. I think I can kill them. There's no reason not to block it, right? It's not like it has Death Touch. Dualcraft Trainer is not currently turned on, but should still be in play. We can land Coven next turn with this. But I guess running over them is our option. Because that mask is pretty good. It won't save you if you're behind, but it's really good at parity. Well, I say it won't save you if you're behind. It'll save you in some versions of you being behind. It won't save you in this version of you being behind. Like, they're too far behind to get anything done. But I've seen versions where you're behind by just a little bit, where you can top deck this and all of a sudden it'll turn the tide. That was just not one of those examples. A lot of people will scream about how good it is with Decayed tokens, and it's not really that good with Decayed tokens. You've built your own divination. Like, that's fine, but that's a common. That's not something that's blowing anybody's mind. It's good to just throw it on arbitrarily large creatures and start chonking in for huge amounts of lifelink. And then if your opponent answers it, all of a sudden you're like, boom, gotcha. I'll draw a bazillion cards, which is also pretty nice. Well, there you go. I'll take it. I'm happy to have a 3-0 recorded for Fossa Foss so that you guys can believe I can actually get a 3-0 now and then. It can actually happen. Please come check out the stream sometime. You can find that at twitch.tv/Semulin. And go buy something from Face to Face Games. They brought you this draft, and they're a great game store. Great people, too. I've spent some time at the store in Montreal and can confirm it is quite nice. All right, we'll see y'all next week. Have a good one, my friends.